The time is just gone 8:38 a.m. as we continue with the broadcast, and we now take a look at what is taking place in India. We're talking about Gurugram. We're talking about a city in the Haryana district. Now we've learned what had happened on the 31st of July, where we've seen this far-right mob. These murderous mobs setting a mosque on fire, killing a 22-year-old deputy imam of the mosque, and further than that, again, a number of Muslim establishments were looted, burnt, and they call it communal violence. This is definitely not communal violence. This is now a murderous mob. Once again, we're talking about organizations like the VHP, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. We're talking about Bajrang Dal. These are extreme far right organizations aligned with the BJP government, and Gurugram under attack. And this is the reason why we are joined this morning, who has been following developments, Aasif Mujtaba, journalist and research scholar based in India. Asif, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, clearly what has been playing out in the Haryana state, and we're talking about Gurugram in particular, major concerns. I've seen a number of your tweets, providing regular updates and looking at the situation at this point in time, very, very volatile, but also a lot of fear as a result of what has happened, the mosque being burned, the deputy imam being killed as well. So at this point in time, situation extremely volatile.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I was there yesterday and I went to all the locations where Muslim shops were burnt and looted. I even went to the mosque where the imam was beaten to death and the portion of the mosque was set on fire. So actually, the thing is, we need to look at the historical perspective of the whole area. During 1947, this was one of the largest Muslim population outside the national capital territory. I mean, it was one consolidated block within, would say, range of 70, 80 kilometers. So the first Home Minister of India instructed the Maharaja of Alwar, the erstwhile ruler of Alwar, to cleanse that area, ethnically cleanse that area of Muslim. And what followed was a large scale murder, I would say genocide of Muslim. Officially 30,000 Muslim and unofficially more than 1.5 lakh Muslims were butchered on the streets, the same area I'm talking about. Their women women were raped, and there were large number of atrocities that happened. Later, they were persuaded by Mahatma Gandhi to be there in India rather than going to Pakistan. So in that area, there is always a sense of alienation, betrayal between the people and the state. Right. So that's the historical perspective of the area that we are talking with. For the past couple of years, when the current regime under Modi came to power, these people have been subjected to another sort of violence, and that is cow related. It has become very frequent for people from this area to be killed on the suspicion even of bringing beef or cow. There have been numerous cases, and one of the most widely talked case was case of two young people called Nasir and Junaid. They were picked, they were brutally beaten, and they were burnt alive in their car, in the same vehicle they were traveling in. The guy who is accused of the murder is called Monu Mane. The irony is, despite a nationwide protest, despite a protest by the deceased brother and every Muslim politician talking, urging the government of Haryana and Rajasthan to arrest it, he was not arrested at all. And 3 days back, the same guy, he challenged the same people that he will be coming to their area for a religious festival. Right. So one thing was very sure, there it was all pre-planned attacks by the people of the area. If you look at those people involved in the rally, they were already carrying sophisticated automatic weapons. Now it's very impossible for an Indian citizen to get weapon, and that too automatic. right? But it was very common in that crowd that people were carrying weapons, and with the intention of indulging into a violence, they they went to that area, and finally, what happened was a large scale arson, a large scale riot happened. Now, the area we are talking about is Noor. It's a Muslim concentrated area. They could not do much there, so they came back to their places and they started targeting every Muslim shops they could. I went to at least five, six locations, and in those all those areas, Muslim shops were particularly targeted. This particular photo is it was a hotel of a Muslim owner. He was a male Muslim. He was beaten, and his shop was burnt. Similarly, there are number of cases. The irony is, despite Hindutva goons calling for a large-scale Muslim genocide publicly, what we saw day before yesterday was very shameful, that a group of Hindutva goons rallying outside a police station in Delhi in large number and saying we will shed bloods on the streets if our Hindutva motives are not being fulfilled. So what is being said, what was being said in public, I mean in closed meetings, is now being reiterated in front of the police headquarters, and large scale killing is happening. I was talking to one of my colleague there at noon. He was saying that police have started picking up juveniles. So at the end of the day, if you look at the broader perspective, Muslims were beaten, Muslims' shop was burnt, Muslims' masjid was burnt, it was the Muslim Imam who was killed, and now it is Muslims who will be arrested in large number. It is Muslim who will be persecuted. It is the Muslim who will be kept in jail. So the only question that I got yesterday while returning back from one settlement is, being Muslim in this country is such a big crime that we have to suffer all this.
Exactly, and
Yeah,
I think from what you have described as well, that this area in particular has got a history of this Hindutva violence and this hate and these acts of terrorism. Because we've heard about slogans being shouted, "Desh ka gaddaro ko goli maro." I mean, that was a BJP politicians during the Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act. BJP politicians were actually shouting those slogans. So we're not
yes,
surprised.
he's not just an MP, he is also the Information and Broadcast Minister of India. He holds a big ministry now. The same guy.
Well, definitely. So that's what I'm saying is, when we have slogans like these coming through from right at the top, and then we have organizations like Batrang Dal and all the other extreme right-wing organizations spewing all this hate, all this venom against Muslims. And as you mentioned, in every instance, Muslims have been affected.
Yeah, definitely. And the very distinctive feature of all these things are, look, for the past 3 years, I'm leading an organization that works primarily with the victims of violence. So we worked with the victims of Delhi Pogrom 2020, then we worked with the victims of Khargon violence, the Sandhwa, the Daj Jalalpur, the victims of the Himmat Nagar, then the victims of Bihar Sharif, and now the victims of the new attack, right? One thing that is distinctly common is the role of police. In all these cases, police were seen actively participating and protecting these goons. What we saw through a BBC documentary in Delhi Rights, that police were providing support to these goons to attack Muslim, the same is happening all over. So what happened in Nu and all these places, we are seeing largely the same picture. So the very basic question remains is, if police is party to the killing of Muslims, if police are hand in gloves with the killers of Muslims, if police are connivance, I mean, they are giving a tacit support to these Hindutva goons, would not it be naive to expect a justice from them? And that's the question.
Situation stands right now? Have things calmed down? What is the situation? And have you had time to assess the level of damage that all this violence and this carnage has resulted for the Muslims in the new area?
See, Gurgaon is also the, I mean, economic capital. We have two major cities that cater to the IT demands. India is one of the major IT hubs of the world. One of the city is called Bangalore, and the other is Gurgaon. So any sort of violence happening in Gurgaon will be in all possibility affect the credibility of India on global level. So when I went to Gurgaon yesterday, things were more largely peaceful. But when I returned in the evening, I got news that two of the mosques they were burnt again in the new area. Right. So something is, though largely the violence have subsided, but there are sporadic cases of arson in those nearby areas. As far as Nu is concerned, the entire area is still sensitive. Section 144 has been imposed. People, are not allowed to even venture into it. So it will take 2 3 days for situation to be clear in terms of the area at Nu, and there is large scale police picking up juveniles and kids from those area. Police raiding Muslim homes at 3 or 4 in the morning, picking the boys. So this is becoming very common in those areas. So it's a developing story. We need to look further into it.
Well, definitely, we certainly will. Unfortunately, time is of the essence, but we thank you for coming out and providing us with the update. But I'm sure from time to time, definitely, we will keep our eyes open and we will definitely follow developments. Asif Mujtaba, we thank you. We say Jazakallah for your time with us right
Thank
here on Salam Media this morning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
you. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, that was Aasif Mujtaba joining us out of India, journalist and research scholar. And this is a Gurgaon. This is where the problems in India, this is a cyber city of the Haryana district. And all this violence that is has been unfolding against Muslims. And we've seen the images, horrific images in terms of burnt shops, a number of mosques, the deputy imam that was beaten to death. And all of this at the end of the day, once again, an area that is known, that is famous for all this violence that is taking place against Muslims and telling Muslims that they are traitors and they need to get out of the country. And these far right, venom filled, poisonous ideology of nationalism, of Hindutva that have been the main result and the main cause of all this violence that is taking place, and all under the watchful eyes of a BJP government that promotes this Hindutva ideology. And this is the reason why, even with the summit that is coming up in South Africa, the BRICS summit, there have been so much talk about Vladimir Putin coming to South Africa, not allowed in the country. What do we say about somebody like Narendra Modi, who has got so much blood on his hands under his watch as Prime Minister? And when he was even Chief Minister of Gujarat, we cannot forget the Gujarat massacres that had taken place under the watch of Narendra Modi. So if Putin can't come to South Africa, why should Narendra Modi even be allowed into this country, considering all the blood he has on his hands? The time is just gone 8:51. We're going to go for a break. Next up is Etiquini Sikyo.